Attention bowlers, we are going to get started. Welcome back to Academy Lanes in Haverhill, Massachusetts. This is Steve Kelly at Aaron St. Cyr. The match format is 5 strings with 14 points on offer. It's 2 points per string and 4 for total pinfall. If there is a tie, the points are evenly split. I'm Steve Kelly on the call for the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour, brought to you by 3 Ball Spare Conglomerate. Thanks for tuning in. This match was played on Monday, April 28th, 2025. Let's talk about a few things. If you've never seen Candlepin bowling, I hope you enjoy this match today. It's a unique take on bowling from the heart of New England and Eastern Canada. This broadcast should have subtitles and live captioning enabled, so do enable it if you enjoy this feature. Also consider the transcript feature if you're watching this from YouTube. Next, during the match, in addition to fun facts and anecdotes, I'll provide the play-by-play action and scoring to the best of my ability. Have a look at the unofficial scoreboard on your screen. The bowlers maintain the official book records separately. The stream score is unofficial. There's Steve Kelly with the inaugural first pitch, and that's a drop of 8. Aaron St. Cyr off to the right. He'll drop 6. This match is being played head-to-head today. That's what the bowlers elected to do. It's kind of a fun, somewhat irregular take when it's a 1v1 match, but both bowlers agreed to it, so off we are on a head-to-head Class A match between Steve Kelly and Aaron St. Cyr in Haverhill, Massachusetts. Both bowlers missing their spare shots, both with single-pin 10-box opportunities here in the blue room. Steve Kelly with a 10-box to start things out, and that's Aaron St. Cyr with a 10-box as well. There are several oopsies in the broadcast. You may notice that there is a very interesting grid on your screen right now. That will be disappearing as of the end of the first half of this game, once Steve Kelly returns to the streaming computer and removes that. That was meant to be there as a test pattern, and he just forgot to turn it off. So, as you may be hearing, Steve Kelly is not only bowling, but is also on the call today. And that is because it wouldn't have been possible for Steve Kelly to do both at the same time. So this is Steve Kelly recording this fairly after the fact, and that's why you'll understand there are 2 Steve Kellys in this broadcast. There's Steve Kelly with a spare on a 7 drop on the right side, mows everything down, and Aaron St. Cyr on a split, both bowlers with a 7 drop, but Aaron St. Cyr had a split version of that. He leaves the 4 on the deck. For the 10-box, though, Aaron St. Cyr will 10 it out for a second 10-box in a row. This is a late-season match. Aaron St. Cyr is the home bowler. Steve Kelly, the away bowler from Leda Lanes in Nashua, New Hampshire. Let's start with Steve Kelly with a season record of 106 and 104 with 15 matches played. That's a 1.02 win-loss ratio at the time of this broadcast. And there's Steve Kelly with a 6 fill. Missed the head pin. Aaron St. Cyr also missing the head pin, and he'll drop 7. Steve Kelly has a home record of 44 and 68, and an away record of 62 and 36 with a season average of 114.09, a home average of 111.2, and an away average of 117.4, with a high single of 163 and a high series of 659. Both bowlers missing their respective marks. Steve Kelly has the high-low jack of the 1, the 7, and the 10, with wood diagonal to the 10. Aaron St. Cyr with the head pin. Steve Kelly will miss it. That will be a 7-box in the third frame. Aaron St. Cyr will take a 10-box in the third. Aaron St. Cyr 30 after 3. Steve Kelly 32 after 3. I do have one score correction, and I will note it in 2 boxes, but it would seem that on Steve Kelly's side in the first box, he had a 10-box, but it was recorded as a 9, and it was never actually corrected. So just to give you a heads up on that, but slight spoiler alert, it doesn't end up affecting anything in the total outcome. There's Steve Kelly, who missed the head pin off to the right, dropped 3. And Aaron St. Cyr will drop 4, missing the head pin to the right. Steve Kelly has 35 strikes, 203 spares, and 189 tens for the season so far. Steve Kelly on the pocket leaves the 4. It was a good spare bid. Aaron St. Cyr on the pocket as well, also a good bid, left with the 7 and the 9. Steve Kelly's up to this point had a perfect box percentage of 57% with 8,557 seasonal total pins. There's a 10 box for Steve Kelly, 42 after 4. Aaron St. Cyr with a 9 box, 39 after 4. You may notice that the on-stream score is not being updated in real time. That's because Steve Kelly, since he was bowling, and this is his system, he just had to run back and enter the scores every 5 boxes. So every 5 boxes, the on-screen scoreboard will be updated. And also that test pattern will be gone in just a few moments here. Steve Kelly's off to the left, and we'll punch 2, and that's what we call a half Worcester. Steve Kelly's averaging 5.2 on the first ball up to this point. Aaron St. Cyr off to the right. Pin's still mixing. It'll be a drop of 6, 1, 7, 10, 3. Steve Kelly 1, 5, 3, 4, 6, 7, 9, 10 for a spare. Punches the center and jams right through the 1, 8, 9, leaving everything else. Aaron St. Cyr will punch the 5 and leave everything else. Rough punches for both bowlers. Steve Kelly averaging 5.2 on the first ball. St. Cyr averaging 6 pins on the first ball. Steve Kelly with an 8 box, and that will put him at 50 after 5. And Aaron St. Cyr with that 9 box will put him at 48 after 5. And here are your scores. Again, there's an error in the first box for Steve Kelly. It was technically a 10 box, but it was never caught, and I actually never even noticed that until just now. So it's a 9 instead of a 10 the first, but other than that, it's 50 after 5 for Steve Kelly and 48 after 5 for Aaron St. Cyr. And here we are, wasting no time, starting the second half. St. Cyr will fire first as the bowlers have swapped lanes. He'll drop 9, leaving the 5 pin. And Steve Kelly is on the 1-2 pocket. Pins are still mixing. Escapes the split stat. It'll be a 7 drop for Steve Kelly, leaving the back right triangle, the 6 triangle. St. Cyr misses a single pin spare opportunity on the 5. Misses it to the left. Steve Kelly has the 6, the 9, and the 10 to deal with. Steve Kelly fires. Oh, and just slightly misses the 6. Takes the 8 pin. Leaves the 6 and the 10. It was a game of inches, Candlepin is. And Aaron St. Cyr will miss the single again for a 9. That puts him at 57 after 6. Steve Kelly looking to clean up. He'll take a 9 box and the 6 for 59. It's 59 and the 6 for Steve Kelly and 57 after 6 for Aaron St. Cyr. The winner of each game will take 2 points. The winner of the match total will take 4 points for a maximum of 14 points up for grabs, in case you missed the opening lecture. Here's Aaron St. Cyr off to the left. He'll drop 4, missing the headpin. Both bowlers still getting a little bit warmed up here. Steve Kelly's off to the left, and he'll punch 2 on the left side half Worcester. Barn burner of a first game right here. I know the two of us were joking about that to each other as we were both just kind of beside ourselves as to some of these shots. Aaron St. Cyr was talking to me before this match began, and he would say, you can throw some of the greatest games of your life in this room, and you can throw also some of the worst games in your life in this room, sometimes one after another. There's a 10 box for Aaron St. Cyr. Steve Kelly is just trying to salvage this at this point with a half Worcester and then a whiff on the second ball, and that will be a 5 box for Steve Kelly. That puts him at 64 in 7, and Aaron St. Cyr is at 67 after 7. As the plates are cleared for a new rack of 10 across both lanes. Let's talk about Aaron St. Cyr next. He has a record of 86 and 82 at the time of this recording with 12 matches played, a 1.05 win-loss ratio, a home record of 42 and 28. And he missed the head pin, and Steve Kelly on the head pin with an 8 drop. Aaron St. Cyr with a 6 drop. Right side 4 horsemen. Steve Kelly was on the head pin. And Aaron St. Cyr off to the right, missed the object pin, leaves the object pin. Steve Kelly's on the 2-4. Steve Kelly's averaging 5.4 on the first ball. Aaron St. Cyr averaging 6.1 on the first ball. Steve Kelly on the object pin. The ball even comes back, but the 4 pin somehow avoids everything. It's a game of dodgeball down there. Aaron St. Cyr with a 10 box. That's 77 and 8. Steve Kelly for the 9, and he'll miss the 4 pin by just centimeters. And that will be 73 and 8 for Steve Kelly, 77 and 8 for Aaron St. Cyr with 2 boxes to go. Aaron St. Cyr has a home record of 42 and 28, 1.5 kill-death ratio. Away, he's 2 and 12 at the time of this recording. But again, this match was played a little bit farther away than the time of this narration, so just keep that in mind in case you see some slightly different stats in the modern day. That's a 6 drop for Aaron St. Cyr and a 4 drop for Steve Kelly. Just had to double check the split stat there. Or the sleeper pin. There's a spare for Aaron St. Cyr. A great shot. Steve Kelly with a spread eagle, a talent spread eagle minus the 9 and the 10, and he'll turn that into a leave of the 3, the 6, and the 8. Aaron St. Cyr 87 and a bonus in the 9th. Steve Kelly looking at a 7 box to a 10 box. And he'll fire on the object pocket, and he'll leave 1 for a 9. So at the end of the 9th frame, that's 82 and 9 for Steve Kelly. Aaron St. Cyr 87 plus another bonus ball in the 9th. As we head into the final frame of the first game. If you're new to Candlepin Bowling, frames are known as boxes. I will use the lingo interchangeably, and perhaps randomly, just for variety's sake. St. Cyr will drop 9 on the head pin, nearly strikes it up. He'll fill with 9, that's 96 and 9. Steve Kelly's on the pocket as well. And less lucky, he'll split 8. St. Cyr misses another single pin spare on the 6. Steve Kelly's on the 3 and the 10 for a spare. And Kelly fires. He misses the object pin by just centimeters once again. All these near misses. Aaron St. Cyr misses the 2nd and gets the 3rd, and that will be a 106 game 1 for Aaron St. Cyr. And Steve Kelly, he'll spare it up with a miss the 2nd, get the 3rd situation all the same. That's 92. First game for Steve Kelly. So technically a 93 for Steve Kelly because that first box was misscored, but still 106. It's still 2 points in Aaron St. Cyr's favor. No matter which way you slice it, you're watching the ACST, and I'm Steve Kelly in the call. It's Steve Kelly at Aaron St. Cyr. And we're going to move right along to the second game here. Great to have you along. Steve Kelly averaging 5.5 on the first ball. Aaron St. Cyr averaging 6.4 on the first ball. Steve Kelly 60% on the head pin. Aaron St. Cyr 40% on the head pin. Both bowlers with 2 splits apiece. And the fill average and totals are still mostly up in the air. Not a lot of statistically significant statistics to speak of just yet. Both bowlers are back on their original lanes that they started on at the beginning of this match. Steve Kelly will fire first. He's on the head pin. He'll drop 8. That is the 6 and the 9. St. Cyr's in the pocket, and he'll open up with an opening statement of a strike. Steve Kelly on the 6 and the 9 for a spare. It was a great opening pocket shot in its own right. Steve Kelly not taking Aaron St. Cyr's strike, laying down. Both bowlers open up with marks. That's a strike in the first for Aaron St. Cyr and a spare in the first for Steve Kelly, with the fills to be continued. Steve Kelly, at the time of this broadcast, is 3rd place in Class A North Division 4 and the number 10 seed in Class A North overall. Steve Kelly, 57% on the perfect box percentage, 8,557 Cecil total pins, and there's a strike for Steve Kelly, dropping 10 on the spare. Strike on spare. Aaron St. Cyr will drop 7 on the head pin. Fill with 7, 17 after 1. Steve Kelly has 11 matches at or over 550 this season, 4 matches at or over 600 this season. On average goes 29.53 for 50 on the head pin per match, and 14.67 splits per match on average. Aaron St. Cyr missing a spare opportunity on the 2, the 4, and the 7, and he'll make that a 9 box for 26 after 2. Steve Kelly currently 30 and a bonus after 2. First ball averages have significantly jumped up since the first game. Now Steve Kelly averaging 7.3, Aaron St. Cyr averaging 7.5. Just required a warm-up game. Steve Kelly's on the pocket. Thin hit, but fills with 8 so far. Next ball will conclude. And St. Cyr will miss the head pin. 7 pins go down, 1, 6, 10. And Steve Kelly, that's another spare. 3 marks in a row for Steve Kelly. So 2 big 20s in a row. And Aaron St. Cyr with a spare as well. So Steve Kelly's at 50 in a bonus after 3. Aaron St. Cyr is at 36 in a bonus after 3. Now the bowlers are getting fired up. Marks all over the place after a first game where not a whole lot happened. But now the action is really heating up here at Academy Lanes. Steve Kelly working on a spare. On the pocket, oddly thin hit. A drop of 6 and a fill of 6. Aaron St. Cyr on the pocket as well, and he'll drop nearly a strike. It really should have been a strike. But so is the nature of Candlepin bowling. The 6-pin really wiggly, but doesn't fall. Steve Kelly sparing that up, and he'll spare it up once again. 4 marks in a row for Steve Kelly, 66 and a bonus in 4. Aaron St. Cyr also with a mark. That's 55 and a bonus in 4. High scoring match so far for Steve Kelly and Aaron St. Cyr. In the past 4 boxes, there have been 7 marks. If you can believe that, only 1 box was without a mark across both bowlers. This is head-to-head action. The flames are flying. If flames could fly, I guess. Steve Kelly on the pocket again. Weirdly distributed hit. It's a fill of 6. St. Cyr's in the pocket as well. He'll drop 7 and split 7. That's 72 after 4 for Steve Kelly and 62 after 4 for Aaron St. Cyr. After just 4 boxes. And Steve Kelly tries to slice to the right from the left, but the 8 and the 10 just couldn't be touched. Aaron St. Cyr misses the object, punches only the 6. He was looking to cap the wood, but couldn't quite do it. Steve Kelly will take an 8 box. That's 80 and 5. And Aaron St. Cyr with a 9 box. That's 71 after 5. And those scores will be showing up on your screen in just a moment here. Check that out. 80 and 5 for Steve Kelly. 71 and 5 for Aaron St. Cyr. 7 marks in 10 boxes across both of our bowlers. Steve Kelly is averaging 6.6 on the first ball. Aaron St. Cyr averaging 7.2 on the first ball. That is absolutely wild. So now that the action has warmed up here, now we're ready to conclude this game. So Aaron St. Cyr, he has a home average of 119 and a away average of 113.4 with a high single of 160 and a high series of 617 so far as of the time of this recording. And Aaron St. Cyr will open up with a 6 drop, 1, 2, 4, 9. Steve Kelly on the pocket. He'll drop 8 with a late falling pin. St. Cyr on the pocket. Oh, and he's on the right side of the pocket, but leaves the 9. Good looking shot on paper. Steve Kelly, there's another mark. He's at 90 and 6 plus a bonus. Perfect on the head pin with 3 splits. Aaron St. Cyr with a 10 box. That's 81 and 6. Aaron St. Cyr 4 for 6 on the head pin with 1 split. Steve Kelly averaging 6.6 on the first ball on average, and Aaron St. Cyr averaging 7 pins on the first ball. Steve Kelly's filling a mark here to go into the 7th frame and concluding the 6th frame. But Aaron St. Cyr will fire first as he's on the right side. And he'll drop 7. He missed the head pin. 1, 3, 7. Steve Kelly on the pocket, 1, 3 pocket, and what a nice fill of 9 on the head pin. That puts him at 99 and 6, leaving the 7 pin for a spare opportunity on a single pin. Aaron St. Cyr misses the head pin, misses the object pin, punches the 3, leaves the 1 and the 7. Steve Kelly rides that rail but stays on. That's another spare. That's 109 plus a ball in the 7th. Aaron St. Cyr with an 8 for 89 and 7. 109 plus a bonus to 89 after 7 frames. Steve Kelly and Aaron St. Cyr respectively. And St. Cyr will pound the pocket, and he'll split 8, leaving the 6 and the 7. Just no luck on that first ball splash. Steve Kelly in the pocket as well, and he'll also split, but he'll split 7. And fill with 7. That will put him at 116 and 7. That's a 3, 6, 7. St. Cyr on the 6 pin, and just a little bit off to the left. Steve Kelly, 3, 6, 7. Punches the 6. No mark. No third mark in a row. St. Cyr on the 6, 7. He'll take the 6. He'll take a stick. That'll be 9 in the 8th for 98 for Aaron St. Cyr. And Steve Kelly, what a 10 box that is. Steve Kelly at 126 at the end of the 8th. Aaron St. Cyr at 98 in 8. With 2 boxes to go. Both bowlers bowling really well. Aaron St. Cyr off to the right, and a bit of a misfire there. It's a 6-pack in the 10, so that'll be a 3 drop. Steve Kelly will take a Oop, it was going to be a Caleri, but then the sleeper pin fell. So now it's the right side 4 horsemen. Aaron St. Cyr, almost spares up that mess, but the 7 pin is not involved in that skirmish. Steve Kelly in the 1, 3, 6, 10. And he's on the object pin, but a little bit on the wrong side. The 3 and the 6 will be uncontested. No mark for either bowler. Aaron St. Cyr, that's a 10 box for 108 in 9 for Mr. St. Cyr. Steve Kelly in the 3 and the 6. He'll spare no pins. That will be another 10 box for Steve Kelly. 136 in 9 to Aaron St. Cyr's 108 after 9. With 1 box to go before we conclude the second game here. And St. Cyr. And he's on the head pin. Bit of a weird result from that. He'll drop 7. And Steve Kelly will take 3 out on the left side. Half Worcester plus a friend. Aaron St. Cyr 2, 4, 7. And goodbye. That piece of wood perpendicular to the 2 took everything out. He's on a spare for 118 and a bonus in the 10th. Steve Kelly will take the second game, though, and he's on the pocket for the second ball. Did a great job on that, but left the 7 and the 10. Steve Kelly for a potential 146 second game, all depending on the 7-10 split outcome. There'll just be 1 pin taken out, and that will be a 9 box for 145 for Steve Kelly. Aaron St. Cyr throwing 1 last ball to fill the spare in the 10th for 118 plus a bonus. And here he is on the head pin, and it will be a 6 fill for 124 for Aaron St. Cyr in the second game. 230 Aaron St. Cyr, 237 Steve Kelly. And that is the end of the second game. A lot of marks that came out of nowhere after a bit of a sleepy first game for both bowlers. So both bowlers have 2 points apiece, 2 games in out of this 5-game series here on the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour. This Class A North match between Steve Kelly and Aaron St. Cyr. I'm Steve Kelly on the call after the fact. Great to have you along with us. And without further ado, let's move on to the third game. By the end of the second game, Steve Kelly had 14 headpin shots for 20. That's 70% completion. Aaron St. Cyr 50% with 10 for 20. Steve Kelly averaging 6.3 in the first ball. Aaron St. Cyr averaging 6.8. And there's Steve Kelly with an 8 drop to open up the third game. Aaron St. Cyr on the right. He'll split with 6. 2, 4, 6, 7 for Aaron St. Cyr. And the 6 and the 10 for Steve Kelly. And there's a layup spare for Steve Kelly to start things out in the third game. And Aaron St. Cyr, he touches all 4 pins, and the 6 pin wiggles, but it doesn't fall down. It's still wiggling even. It was the right way to run down the 2, 4, 7, 6, but things just didn't work out. That's a 10 box for Aaron St. Cyr. Steve Kelly 10 after 1 and a bonus. Aaron St. Cyr 10 after 1. Steve Kelly filling a spare now. And he's on the 1-3 pocket. An explosion of an 8 drop. It's 18 after 1. Aaron St. Cyr's off to the left, and he'll drop 4. Steve Kelly on the 5 and the 8. Just misses off to the right. And St. Cyr will miss the object. He'll punch the 3. Now there's symmetry down there. It's the 1, 4, 6, 7, 10. And Steve Kelly will make that a 9 box in the second for 27. Aaron St. Cyr will take the 4, and that will be a 6 box for Aaron St. Cyr. 27 after 2 for Steve Kelly. 16 after 2 for Aaron St. Cyr. Aaron St. Cyr on the season up to this point has 21 strikes, 70 spares, and 53 tens with a 57% perfect box percentage. Aaron St. Cyr has 3,542 seasonal total pins. He's currently 2nd place in Class A North Division 4 and the number 8th seed in Class A North overall as of this match. And Aaron St. Cyr will, or excuse me, Steve Kelly will drop 6. St. Cyr with a 10 drop of a strike. So Aaron St. Cyr's on the board with a strike. Steve Kelly on the 1-3-6-8 for a potential spare opportunity here. And will that be a spare? And it will be. That would made it dicey, but it went down regardless. 37 and a bonus after 3 for Steve Kelly, and that's 26 and a strike fill in the third for Aaron St. Cyr. Both bowlers 2 for 3 on the head pin this game. Steve Kelly averaging 6.4 on the first ball. Aaron St. Cyr averaging 6.6 on the first ball. Steve Kelly filling a spare, and he'll, ooh, yikes. He'll punch the 3 and somehow take the 3 and the 7 out with nothing else in between. That's a 2 drop and a 2 fill. Rough luck there. And Aaron St. Cyr for the double, and it's a double. Aaron St. Cyr 2 strikes in a row. That's 36 and a bonus after 3 and 46 and a bonus after 4. As the double strike scoring works, Steve Kelly will punch the 4. That's a big advantage for Aaron St. Cyr to pull ahead. Steve Kelly just looking for pins at this point, and it will be a 6 box. The 2x2 grid in the center, the 1, the 2, the 5, and the 8. Steve Kelly at 45 after 4. So now the way the double strike fill will work for Aaron St. Cyr is the first ball will conclude the 3rd frame fill, and then the second ball will conclude the 4th frame fill. And if he marks out, then we'll keep going. Steve Kelly's off to the right of the head pin once again. It's a 3 drop for Steve Kelly and a 7 drop for Aaron St. Cyr despite missing the head pin, and that puts him at 43 after 3. A big 27 in the third for Aaron St. Cyr. Steve Kelly, oh, ball into the void, into the ocean. Unfortunately, the curse of punching and then sailing through the hole where the punch went. The hole punch. And Aaron St. Cyr will also miss into the void. That'll be a 7 on the strike, on the single strike as well for 60 after 4 for Aaron St. Cyr to conclude that Mark story. And Steve Kelly punching, and that's a 5 box. An ugly 1-7-10-4-6 leave. Aaron St. Cyr at least pinning it out. That puts Aaron St. Cyr at 70 after 5, and Steve Kelly is at 50 after 5. Aaron St. Cyr's double strike and the 7 fills. That really propelled him forward by plus 20. Steve Kelly 2 marks, but that low 2 fill and the 5 box in the 5th kind of caused the deficit there, or made it larger than it had to be. So it's a difference of 20 between Steve Kelly and Aaron St. Cyr halfway through this match, 50 to 70, 287 to 300, Kelly and St. Cyr respectively. Here comes Aaron St. Cyr after the lane swap, and he's on the head pin. He'll drop 8, he'll split 8, the 5 and the 10. Steve Kelly next on the 1-3 pocket. He's on the head pin as well, and he'll drop 7, 5, 7, 10. St. Cyr, he wanted to play the 5 and the 10 with the wood in between, but the 10 wasn't touched. Steve Kelly has the 5, 7, 10 with a lot of wood. Gonna have to strategize which wood to cap, and Steve Kelly picked the left side, hoping that would do something, but nothing doing really, just only the 10 pin was taken out. Aaron St. Cyr with the 10 box, that's 80 and 6. Steve Kelly on the 5 and the 7 with a piece of wood in front of the 5. He'll miss everything. That's an 8 box for Steve Kelly for 58 and 6. Difference of 22 between our bowlers. Steve Kelly 58, Aaron St. Cyr 80. Steve Kelly averaging 5.8 on the first ball on average. Aaron St. Cyr averaging 6.9 pins on the first ball on average. And here's Aaron St. Cyr on the head pin, dropping 6. Weird split of 6, 4, 5, 8, 10. Steve Kelly on the pocket as well. Oh, and a 3 drop right down the center. Too much on the center. That's a talent spread eagle. Aaron St. Cyr, he'll try to make something out of that innie triangle on the left side, leaving the 4 and the 10 on the second ball. Steve Kelly on this talent eagle ends up being the 2, 4, 9. 9 is wiggling. It was hit hard by a piece of wood. Aaron St. Cyr will actually make that a 10 box. I looked away and I thought it was a 9, but it's actually a 10. Steve Kelly with a 9 as well. Aaron St. Cyr will drop 6. Missing the headpin. Steve Kelly's off to the left. He'll drop 6 as well. Both bowlers missing the headpin. Aaron St. Cyr on the headpin, and he'll leave the 8. Steve Kelly on the 1-3. Whatever that was, it ended up being a spare for Steve Kelly. That's 78 and a bonus in 8. Aaron St. Cyr will 10 it out, his 4th 10 box in a row for 108. Have noticed another slight score correction for Steve Kelly. It appears that another one we never caught. Steve Kelly it was put in as a 10 box in the 7th, but it was actually a 9. But again, as I can see the final scores in front of me, that doesn't end up being a factor. It wouldn't have mattered. And I guess it also kind of corrects for that issue in the other direction in the first game. But neither here nor there. Scoring in Candlepin is always fun. The automatic score system by Cubica AMF at Academy Lanes is good, but it's not perfect. And if you're bowling head-to-head and you're bowling this fast, sometimes it's just hard to keep up with that sometimes. Or if you're just not looking up every other ball, you kind of know how it is. And the way those TVs are placed at Academy, especially in this room, you can kind of see they're a little bit further back. So actually, based on where your approach is and where you're starting, you actually kind of have to take a bit of a step backwards to even see the score. So if you're really in the zone, you can kind of understand it's a little easy to miss if someone else isn't there to authenticate the scores outside of the bowlers. 7 boxes all around for both bowlers in the 9th. That's 87 for Steve Kelly and 107 for Aaron St. Cyr in the 9th. Still a difference of 20 in Aaron St. Cyr's favor as of right now. In the final box of the 3rd game here, this head-to-head action, Class A North at Academy Lanes in Haverhill, Massachusetts. The biggest Candlepin house in the U.S. There's a 6-drop for Aaron St. Cyr. 7-10-4-6. Steve Kelly with a 9-drop on the headpin. Almost a strike. Leaves the 7. Steve Kelly 19 for 30 on the headpin with 8 splits. Aaron St. Cyr 16 for 30 on the headpin with 8 splits. Both bowlers doing pretty great on the headpins in particular. Steve Kelly on the single pin spare, and he's got it. That's 97 and a bonus in the 10th for Steve Kelly. And Aaron St. Cyr leaving the 6 and the 10. Misses his mark on the banana split. Or excuse me, the 10 box on the banana split. It'll be an 8 box for Aaron St. Cyr. That's a 115. And he will take the 3rd game, despite the fill that Steve Kelly's about to throw. Steve Kelly could get to 107, but it won't be enough for Aaron St. Cyr's 115. And that's even factoring in the 10 box that should have been a 9 box. Or the 9 box that, you know what I mean. Steve Kelly, there's a 7 fill, and that's a 104 game 3 for Steve Kelly in the 10th. And Aaron St. Cyr at 115 in the 3rd game. That's 341 for Steve Kelly and 345 for Aaron St. Cyr. A difference of 4 in the grand total pinfall. That's very close. And the game was only a difference of 11 in Aaron St. Cyr's favor. Aaron St. Cyr currently with 4 points to Steve Kelly's 2. Steve Kelly 63% on the headpin. Aaron St. Cyr 53% on the headpin. Both bowlers with an equal amount of splits. That's 8 apiece. Steve Kelly totaling 73 in bonus pins on marks, and Aaron St. Cyr totaling 62 in bonus pins on marks. Steve Kelly averaging 5.7 on the first ball. Aaron St. Cyr averaging 6.6 on the first ball. Here's Steve Kelly almost with a strike out of the gate. Drops all but the 4. And St. Cyr, he's on the pocket, and there's a strike for Aaron St. Cyr, though. Both bowlers firing out like cannons to start the 4th game. And Steve Kelly with a mark of his own, though. Both bowlers on a mark in the first. 10 plus for both. So yes, I mentioned Academy Lanes is the largest Candlepin house in the U.S. It's got 30-some-odd lanes. A whole lot. Up to that, it was only rivaled by Leda Lanes. Prior to that, Leda Lanes had 36. It was still less than Academy Lanes. Academy Lanes has 44 lanes to be precise. That's a 4-drop for Steve Kelly, missing the headpin to the right. Aaron St. Cyr dropping 7 so far. So Steve Kelly 14 after 1. Steve Kelly almost sparing that up. He leaves the 6. It was a nice ball. Ran things down, but left the 6. Aaron St. Cyr on the triangle. The wood deflects everything. Wow, that's incredible how protected that 4 triangle was. So that's 17 after 1 for Aaron St. Cyr. A difference of 3 in the first box between our two bowlers. Steve Kelly with a 10. That's 24 after 2. Aaron St. Cyr. Oh, wow. The wood deflects away from the 7 and the 8. So Aaron St. Cyr with an 8 box is at 25 after 2. Steve Kelly averaging 6 pins on the first ball. Aaron St. Cyr averaging 7.1 pins on the first ball. Steve Kelly 63% quarterback rating on the head pin. St. Cyr 56%. Oh, and Steve Kelly misses off the right, and he'll take a 3-pin quarter Worcester and a 1-drop. And it's an 8-drop for Aaron St. Cyr. Should be a layup spare, 6 in the 10. So Steve Kelly working on a quarter Worcester, just waiting on a ball return. But yes, Academy Lanes is located in Haverhill, Massachusetts, in Academy Plaza at 725 South Main Street, about 1.7 miles from downtown and 1.3 miles from the interstate. Right next door is Aroma Joe's, a great place for coffee or little treats. The plaza is also home to a plethora of other businesses, including Wicked Axe, located right next door. That's right, Academy Plaza offers a diverse range of activities, from bowling to axe throwing. Academy Lanes is owned by the DeBurrow family, opened in 1963 and celebrated 60 years of operation in December of 2023. Aaron St. Cyr, though, with a spare. Steve Kelly with a left side accordion, the 4-5-7-8. Steve Kelly will kick a piece of wood, wanted some pinball action. Got 2 of the 4 pins, leaving the 7 and the 8. So where does that leave us? That leaves us at 32 after 3 for Steve Kelly and 35 in a bonus for Aaron St. Cyr. Steve Kelly 1 for 3 on the head pin this game. St. Cyr 3 for 3 on the head pin this game. Steve Kelly on the pocket. 7 pins go down. It's the Triforce of Power, the 3 triangle. Aaron St. Cyr missing the head pin but filling with 6. Mercifully, 1, 3, 8, 10 for Aaron St. Cyr. Steve Kelly, 3, 5, 6. And the top of the pin setter stuffs the flying deadwood, leaving the 6. And Aaron St. Cyr leaves the 8. Both bowlers missing their marks. Steve Kelly in the 6 pin. And he'll make it a 10 box. That'll be 42 after 4 for Kelly. St. Cyr on the 10 pin, or for the single pin for a 10 box. That'll be 51 after 4 for Aaron St. Cyr. It's 42 after 4 for Steve Kelly. 51 after 4 for Aaron St. Cyr with 1 box to go before we get to the half and assess the totals. 3.5 games in. Here in the 5th frame on the ACST Class A North, I'm Steve Kelly in the call after the fact. That's Steve Kelly at Aaron St. Cyr. And that's Steve Kelly with a 5-drop, a 6-drop. Missed the head pin. Almost a Cleary, but the 7 pin fell. And Aaron St. Cyr, he'll drop 5. It's a split for Aaron St. Cyr. Spread equal minus the 7. Steve Kelly 1, 2, 4, 9. And there's a spare for Steve Kelly. That's 52 and a bonus after 5. Aaron St. Cyr on a doozy of a split. Turns it into a leave of 3 pins, 2, 6, 10. 2, 6, 10 for Aaron St. Cyr for a 10 box, and it'll be an 8 box for Aaron St. Cyr. That's 59 and 5 for Aaron St. Cyr, and 52 and a bonus after 5 for Steve Kelly. Those scores will be appearing on your screen in just a moment here, and here they are. 52 and a bonus for Steve Kelly, 2 marks, bookending on the 1st and the 5th frame. Aaron St. Cyr with a strike and a spare, 59 after 5. 1 strike for Steve Kelly, 4 strikes for Aaron St. Cyr, 12 spares for Steve Kelly, 5 spares for Aaron St. Cyr. As we head into the second half of the 4th game here on the ACST, I'm Steve Kelly in the call. This is Steve Kelly at Aaron St. Cyr. Great to have you along with us. Go Gadgets, second half of the 4th game. Here's Aaron St. Cyr. A little off target, but he mixes down 7. Steve Kelly in response on the left lane on the 1-2 pocket. And he'll mix 6. 3, 6, 9, 10. Aaron St. Cyr 1, 5, 3. Aaron St. Cyr will punch the head pin, and he'll somehow leave the other 2 pins untouched. And Steve Kelly's on the mark, and he's got that mark. That's 68 and a bonus for Steve Kelly in the 6th. Aaron St. Cyr will miss the 2nd, get the 3rd. That's a 10 box. Aaron St. Cyr 69 after 6. Steve Kelly 68 after 6 plus a ball. Steve Kelly's been averaging 5.8 on the first ball. Aaron St. Cyr averaging 6.7 on the first ball. Here's Aaron St. Cyr with that big wind-up and that big throw. And he'll mix 6 down and split 6. 4, 6, 7, 8. Steve Kelly with a 7 fill. Not a split because the head pin is there. It's the 1, 3, 7. Aaron St. Cyr. And he'll leave the goalposts. A little bit frustrated with that shot. Leaves the 4 and the 6. Steve Kelly the 1, the 3, and the 7. Ball bounces. Steve Kelly's off to the left. Also frustrated with that shot. That bouncy ball was kind of what sent it off target. Aaron St. Cyr has to pick a stick. He'll take the 4. That's a 9 box for 78 and 7. And Kelly will punch the 3. Overcorrecting a little bit too much to the right and too full, leaving the 1 and the 7 for an 8 box. That's 83 and 7 for Steve Kelly. 78 and 7 for Aaron St. Cyr. Steve Kelly 3 for 7 on the head pin with no splits this game. Aaron St. Cyr 5 for 7 on the head pin with 2 splits. Steve Kelly 22 for 37 on the head pins overall. Aaron St. Cyr 21 for 37 overall. And St. Cyr with a 7 drop and a 7 split. 7, 10, 4. And Kelly on the 1, 3 pocket, almost a strike. A nice 9 drop, leaves the 8 pin. And St. Cyr hits a piece of wood that oddly deflects. It was double buffered. The 4 pin, the target pin, was actually protected by all of that action. No mark for St. Cyr. Steve Kelly's on the single, and he's all over that single pin spare for the 93 plus a bonus in the 8th. St. Cyr for a 10 box for an 88, and he has that 88 in 8. 93 to 88 currently. Steve Kelly in the lead, plus a ball. As we come into the last 2 boxes of the 4th game here on the ACST. Here's Aaron St. Cyr, and he's on the head pin. Too much on the head pin. It's a 4 drop and a split. Spread eagle-ish. And Steve Kelly with a 7 drop, 7 fill. That's 108. Missed the head pin, but still got 7. Aaron St. Cyr, oh, painful punch of the 4. He really needed that mark to stay in this game. Steve Kelly's on the 1, 3, and 6. He takes the 3 and the 6 and leaves the head pin. Aaron St. Cyr's got 5 or greater, and ouch. That's going to be a 5 box, a 93 and 9 for Aaron St. Cyr. That's a rough box. Steve Kelly, that's a complete misfire. That was a 9 for Steve Kelly. That's 109 and 9 for Steve Kelly, and 93 and 9 for Aaron St. Cyr. That's a difference of 16 in Steve Kelly's favor here in the 4th. And St. Cyr, almost a strike. A great head pin opening stanza in the 10th. 9 drop, leaving the 8. Steve Kelly's on the pocket as well, and he'll drop 8. The 4 and the 10 for Steve Kelly. St. Cyr for his single pin spare, and he's got it. That's 103 and a ball. Steve Kelly all the while on the 4 and the 10. He'll punch the 4 a little full. It'll be a 10 box for Steve Kelly for a potential 119. Aaron St. Cyr at 103 and a bonus for a potential 113. So Steve Kelly will take the 4th. That's 119, game 4 for Steve Kelly. Aaron St. Cyr has 1 ball to go. Steve Kelly has a 464 game total. And now Aaron St. Cyr following up his spare fill. And he's on the pocket, and it'll get a nice fill of over 5. There'll be an 8 fill and a 111. Game 4 for Aaron St. Cyr, a 4-game total of 456 for Aaron St. Cyr, a 4-game total of 460 for Steve Kelly. Both bowlers are tied across the board in terms of each of points, 4 apiece, and then in terms of the total, it's only a difference of 4 in Steve Kelly's favor with that 460 to Aaron St. Cyr's 456. That difference of 4 in the total has not moved in 2 games. It was a difference of 4 in the second game, in the third game, and 7 in the second game, and 14 in the first game. So that narrow gap in the total has remained narrow going here into the 5th. So it's very close in terms of the pins, the total pinfall, and the points. It's been a bit of a slugfest here today. Steve Kelly has taken 2 games up to this point, two games up to this point, and so has Aaron St. Cyr. And there's an opening ball for Steve Kelly, a drop of 8 and a split of 8, 9 and 10. St. Cyr will drop 9. Both blowers on the head pin. Aaron St. Cyr on the 5, Steve Kelly on the 9 and the 10. Steve Kelly trying to make something out of the 9 and the 10. He'll play the wood, and wow, it looked like it was going to take both pins, but something just got deflected a little bit away from the 8. Aaron St. Cyr will take a spare, and that will be 10 after 1 for Aaron St. Cyr and a bonus. And Steve Kelly for his 10 box now, and he's got it as well. That's 10 after 1 for Steve Kelly, 10 after 1 for Aaron St. Cyr. Aaron St. Cyr on a spare fill. At the end of the 4th game, Steve Kelly averaged 6 pins on the first ball. Aaron St. Cyr averaging 6.7. Both bowlers at the end of the 4th game, 24 for 40 on the head pin. That's 60%. 8 splits for Kelly, 12 for St. Cyr. Here's Steve Kelly. Punches 2, left side half Worcester. 2 drop. And here's Aaron St. Cyr on the left side with a 5 punch and a 5 fill, 15 after 1. And Steve Kelly will leave the 1, the 7, the 10, the 4, and the 6. Symmetrical, but not great numerically. St. Cyr on the pile of 5 on the right will punch the 3 and the 9, leaving the 5, the 6, and the 10. Here's Kelly on the head pin, and only the head pin. Yikes, that'll be a 6 box in the second for 16 after 2. Aaron St. Cyr will make it an 8 for 23 after 2. As we go into the 3rd box of the 5th and final game. Box number 43. At Academy Lanes, there's a unique feature in its 3 different rooms. The unique feature is the 3 different rooms. The leftmost room is the red room, the most recently renovated room in the house, the most traditional with all wood approaches and lanes. This room is the middle room, the blue room, the glow bowling room. Kind of mixed sort of in the middle when it comes to that material. And then to the right of this room is the green room, which is all synthetic lanes. It also includes Pub 125. And Steve Kelly on the left side diamond will punch 3 of the 4 pins, leaving the 8 and the 10. Aaron St. Cyr on the 10 pin for the spare, and he's got it. That's 33 and a bonus and 3 for Aaron St. Cyr, who's perfect on the head pin up to this point. Steve Kelly 2 for 3 on the head pin, and he'll make his 3rd frame a 9 for 25 after 3 for Steve Kelly. It's 33 and a bonus after 3 for Aaron St. Cyr. 2 boxes to go before we assess the totals halfway into the 5th and final game here. It's been a very close match in the grand total pinfall in particular. A difference of 4 across 2 games. And that differential has only been getting narrower. Steve Kelly's on the head pin, and we'll split 7, 4, 6, 3. Aaron St. Cyr all the while on the 1-3 pocket. He'll drop 8. 3, 4, 6 for Steve Kelly, and the 5 and the 8 for St. Cyr. Kelly will punch the 6, leaving the 3 and the 4. And Aaron St. Cyr will make a miss out of that spare on the 5 and the 8. Aaron St. Cyr 2 marks so far this half. Steve Kelly none. That'll be an 8 for Steve Kelly, 33 and 4. Aaron St. Cyr will punch the 5 and leave the 8 for a 9 box. That's 33 after 4 for Steve Kelly and 50 after 4 for Aaron St. Cyr. 1 box to go. We've seen quite the range of high games and low games this match. Both bowlers getting some really challenging leaves in this particular match. Or this particular game, that is. In the match, you might say, as well. Here's Steve Kelly on the headpin, pounding the headpin. But only get 4 out of it, and it's a split. St. Cyr, similar story. He'll get a 2-drop half Worcester on the left side. And Steve Kelly punching the 4. Yeah, suddenly the punches are just epidemic right now. Aaron St. Cyr leaving the 1, the 4, and the 7. No mark for either bowler. Kelly for something greater than a 5. Unfortunately, it's going to be a 5. That'll be 38 after 5 for Steve Kelly. It's a low half. There's a 10 for Aaron St. Cyr. That will put him at 60 after 5. That's a big gap right there. And we'll have those scores showing up for you in just a moment. Again, 38 after 5 for Steve Kelly, 60 after 5 for Aaron St. Cyr. Steve Kelly, 28 for 45 on the headpin. That's 62%. Aaron St. Cyr, same number, 62%. 28 for 45 on the headpin. 12 splits for Steve Kelly, 12 splits for Aaron St. Cyr. Actually, it's a deadlock in terms of the headpins and splits. Steve Kelly averaging 5.7 pins on the first ball. Aaron St. Cyr averaging 6.6 on the first ball. It's a difference of 18 in the total in Aaron St. Cyr's favor right now, and Aaron St. Cyr is up in the game by 22. St. Cyr has 3 more strikes than Steve Kelly, and Steve Kelly has 14 spares to Aaron St. Cyr's 8, so it's an interesting mix of strikes and spares, and in the fill totals, it's only a difference of 1 between Kelly and St. Cyr. So if you look at these granular stats, it is incredible how close both of these bowlers really are. Aside from just total pinfall, it's just crazy. There's a 9-drop for Aaron St. Cyr. And Steve Kelly will drop 8. Both bowlers on the headpin there. Sometimes a break is all you need to get right back into things. St. Cyr on the single pin spare, but the ball bounces and it tails off to the right. Steve Kelly on the 4 and the 7. Oh, and he's riding the rail to the left. Yeah, both bowlers are just having trouble on the follow-up balls. St. Cyr misses the 2nd and gets the 3rd. That's 70 and 6. Steve Kelly will also make it a 10 box for 48 and 6. 48 to 70, Kelly and St. Cyr, respectively. Steve Kelly has been 5 for 6 on the headpin with 4 splits. Aaron St. Cyr, 5 for 6 on the headpin with no splits this game. Their numbers are pretty good in other factors. It's just the pins are not really cooperating right now, it seems. 6-pack for Aaron St. Cyr and a 4-drop. Miss off to the right. Steve Kelly to the left of the headpin, and he's got 6 pins down. It was almost a Caleri, but the sleeper pin fell late. Right side, 4 horsemen, 1, 3, 6, 10. St. Cyr on the 6-pack. He'll take 3 of the 6, leaving the 2 and the 4 and the 7. Steve Kelly on the 1, 3, 6, 10. Right side, 4 horsemen. For a spare, and the ball's just a little bit off to the right. Doesn't tail off to the left like it normally does. Funny when that doesn't happen. Aaron St. Cyr will make it a 9 box for 79 and 7. And Steve Kelly looking to clean this up. He'll miss the object pin. Oh, but a ball comes back and takes an extra pin. That will be an 8 box for Steve Kelly for 56 and 7. Aaron St. Cyr, 79 and 7. It's funny how the first and 5th games have not exactly been the most exciting. It's been more in the center of the match in terms of the explosion of marks. Kind of lays credence to Aaron St. Cyr's theory that this room can have really high highs and really low lows, and wow, that's a 6-drop and a split for Aaron St. Cyr, leaving the entire back row. The back fence. Steve Kelly on the headpin will drop 8. It's the 5 and the 3. Both bowlers all over the headpin this game, but just not much happening in terms of the follow-ups, be it the first ball or the second ball. And Steve Kelly will miss off to the right. The ball bounces back but doesn't take anything else. St. Cyr, oh, and he had to fight hard for that 8 box. That's 87 and 8 for Aaron St. Cyr. Steve Kelly will clean up for a 10 box for 66 and 8. Yeah, it's funny to watch both these bowlers really struggle towards the end here. And it's not really because of misfires or anything, it's just pins are being pins down there. That's Candlepin for you. Even the best bowlers can have bad games. Steve Kelly on the... Aaron St. Cyr in the 1-2 pocket, and the 6-pin slides, but doesn't fall. Even wiggles a bit. And Kelly leaves the 6-pack on the left side. No head pin shot. Aaron St. Cyr misses the 6, thanks to the deflection of the wood. And Steve Kelly, it turns into a 7-8 leave. St. Cyr will take a 10 box for 97 and 9. Steve Kelly on the 7 and the 8. That will be a 9 box for 75 and 9. 1 box to go before we close everything out. It's been a great session talking with y'all. And if you want to check out more stuff, check out my channel 3 Ball Spare on YouTube, as well as the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour page on Facebook and Candlepin Bowling Network on YouTube, to name just a few places you should check out after the conclusion of this match. That's an 8 drop for Aaron St. Cyr. Steve Kelly is on the pocket as well, and he'll split 8. Again, just these frustrating opening leaves that just... there isn't much that can be done. Aaron St. Cyr had a spare leave, but he went off to the right and left the 6. So Aaron St. Cyr will only get 2 marks. Steve Kelly, this is his last chance for a mark this game, and he'll play the wood the correct way, but he'll only get the 7 and leave the 9 out of it. St. Cyr, he'll take a 10 box. That'll be 107 game 5 for Aaron St. Cyr. 563, 5 game total. Steve Kelly with that 10 box is at 85 in the 5th for a 545. 5 game total. And that will be the end of the match. Both bowlers struggling mightily in the 5th game in particular. Steve Kelly averaging 5.9 on the first ball. St. Cyr averaging 6.7 on the first ball. And here's the final stats. It's 4 points for Steve Kelly, 10 for St. Cyr. It was that swing in the 5th game that was really the difference in the grand total pinfall. As you can see, it was really close the whole way down. 545 for Steve Kelly, 563 Aaron St. Cyr. And if you want to check out some other Candlepin fun, check out candlepin.org and click Go Bowling to find your nearest center. They'll always appreciate your business. Any way you can get there, if you're in the area or you want to take a trip, that would be awesome. Check out my channel, 3 Ball Spare as well. Full matches, shorts, highlights, and more. Check it out and subscribe if you'd like to. Anyways, for Steve Kelly and Aaron St. Cyr, have a great one, everyone. We'll see you at the next Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour match.